All right, my friends, you've all been waiting. The Chopin competition news. It's probably no secret by now that I applied. There was Instagram posts, YouTube posts. I wrote to my email newsletter a bunch about it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'm not going to make you wait till the end of the video to find out if I got in. I am going to ask you to watch to the end, regardless of the outcome, because I have several things I'm going to say that I think are relevant to not just me, but to potentially you, and I'm sure there's others out there. So, I did not get in. Am I disappointed? Yes. And a little extra so, and here's why. I wanted to do this competition since I was very young, very, very young. I started piano at age 12. I'm 27 now, going on 28 in a few months. And there's a few things that means. One is that this is my last shot, or was my last shot. I will be too old by the time the next competition hits. And that's a hard reality to hit. I have more to say about that later, which might be today. It might be on a future video. But basically, here's a couple things. So I wanted to do the 2015 one. I had not played the piano long enough to have the experience. It was 5.5 years of piano practice at that point. And I just wasn't quite there. I was almost there. I was at the Goldberg School in LA, pre-college. And it was just a hectic year. Not a great teacher situation there. And things kind of went south. There was family difficulties. There was school difficulties. Blah, 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 blah. So I thought, okay, I'll do 2020. And 2020 hits. Of course, COVID happens. And of course, the competition still took place, but I got married that year. I had just graduated. It was like I needed a little time to figure life out and actually pay the bills and like not just sit there and practice 6 hours a day, which I was very used to doing. The previous year, I had recorded my Stravinsky Rite of Spring solo piano transcription, which probably many of you have seen. It's my most viewed performance online. And that was like my peak level playing. But I'm not going to lie, I mean, I'm not there right now. It's really hard to maintain that kind of playing without putting in that much time. And once you hit adulthood, it's like, you know, expenses go off the charts. And so many of my friends like that were conservatory trained ended up not even going into professional performing because of this very reason. Like life hits and you're like, wait, I don't get to just like play and actually make money from that anymore. I can't just practice 6 hours a day and play 50 etudes at the same time. And that's a hard reality to come by because I have the skill for it, as I hope I've proven with the Stravinsky Rite of Spring, my Beethoven Waldstein Sonata. That was pretty up there in ability. Plenty of etudes out there, some good Bach playing. I mean, I've shown range of all the genres and all the things that pianists are expected to do. Even in my learning speed, I was able to do Rock 3 in 3.5 months, I think. That was the year COVID actually struck. In any case, why am I sharing all this? Well, I needed a break in 2020 because things were just hard to manage and I was trying to come to terms with how this was all going to work. Then I had a falling out with my teacher because he was like, no, you don't take a break, like you keep going and you're going to do the next Clyburn, which is the one Yu Chen Lim won, so I'm glad I wasn't there. And I said, no, I really can't do this. I truly need like a year off, you know, just calm down, reassess, build up some skills, clear my head. And basically that led to the end of that relationship. So we stopped talking at that point, and that then turned my year even longer because it was quite discouraging. And I felt like not necessarily quitting piano forever, but it certainly crossed my mind. I did quit for a full 1.5 years. I did not play except for accompanying some local brass players and flutists and things like this. But that doesn't really count because it wasn't for my own satisfaction and I wasn't like trying to actually perfect the pieces. It was like get through it so that I can grab a quick check and go on to the next gig. So in any case, then I go, all right, we'll see what happens in the future. I don't start playing again until the beginning of 2023. It was that long of a break. Wait, or was it 20? Yeah, 2023. I played till the end of 2020, took 21 off, most of 22 off, started again in 2023. And I started going, all right, I have 2.5 years till the Chopin competition. It's time. It's time I finally do this. It's now or never. So I learned almost all of the repertoire. In fact, I had performed the piano concerto in E minor with orchestra multiple times in my teens. So I had that down. I had the heroic polonaise, the nocturne, 2 ballades. In the meantime, 2 more scherzos, plenty of etudes. I've worked on 18 of the etudes over the years. So it was a matter of just picking 3 and polishing them. And then I did pretty much everything I needed to do. Oh, the concert waltz, Opus 34, number 1, all of these things I had. I needed to pick up a few preludes, the Polonaise Fantasy, and of course the biggest challenge was not learning the pieces, but it's in perfecting them at that level, at that caliber, all at the same time. I've done almost that before. I think the most I've had in my hands at one time was about 2 hours of solo repertoire and maybe a concerto on top of that was like half polished. But it's a whole new story when you have 3 hours of one composer in your fingers at one time. I think that is what's truly admirable about these competition winners is, just even participants. It's not the caliber of playing, because I've achieved that at snapshots in my time. But I've never done that with 3 hours of music within a 2 or 3 week time span. That's truly a whole nother level, because you can't let things slip. So it's, juggling all that is quite tough. And I thought, well, if I start training 2.5 years in advance, I can do it. The first year was going to be devoted to just continuing to finish all of the pieces, which also was the 3rd sonata I had to finish learning. And then the second year was going to be devoted to starting to play about 45 minutes to an hour of them at a time throughout the year on rotation. And then the following January to October lead up, which is this year, was going to be devoted entirely to just like not learning anything more. Just you've already performed all the pieces. It's just playing them like 50 to 100 times, even giving free house concerts around Portland to people that had pianos in their home, just to get the experience of doing it. That was the plan. Then life kind of hit again. In the meantime, we'd had 3 kids. That kind of made things a little bit harder to find practice time. Also upped the need for working all the more, so I ended up working to almost 30 in-person students at a time. And in 5 years, I worked with almost 60 people, because, not everyone stays forever. Some people are just a year or something. So it was a lot of teaching. And I weaned off accompanying because I got totally tired of that. But, now I'm teaching less in person, more online, as you probably all know. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this, most likely. But I've posted nearly 250 videos of educational content in the last 16 months. So not even a full 1.5 years yet into this. And that's kind of my new income, if you will. Obviously, most of that is free. 99% of what I give out is free. But there's enough people that come to me and pay me for something that it sort of works out. So in any case, I'm also just interested in helping people achieve what I couldn't. Because the reality is, with me being almost 28 and these competitions having age cutoffs at 30, some of them 32, this rejection letter from the Chopin was now kind of the last straw for me. And it was the reality check of, I will never be the concert pianist I thought I was going to be. And that's a hard thing. And I'm not saying this to be Debbie Downer or any of that. It's simply because that's how this world works. There's age limits to these things. I'm not saying it can't come in another way. Maybe, I meet some conductor in 4 years and he has me play some concerto with New York Philharmonic. and that somehow skyrockets and goes viral. I mean, anything can happen. Literally, the weirdest things can happen. But I'm saying the traditional path of go to school, win competitions, get your name out there, the time is really crunched down. And I didn't get into the Clyburn. I didn't get into the Leeds. I didn't get into the Chopin. I mean, there's a couple more I could try for. But it's kind of like at a certain point, you either do this full time or you don't. And I just can't. I mean, I was practicing less than an hour a day to prepare for my Chopin audition, which compared to the people that probably did get in was, I'm quite confident, less than a quarter of the time of preparation. Now, I'm very smart about my preparation, so I still think I was very close to the level that could have been advanced. But that difference, you can be the best pianist in the world, and that difference still needs to be the amount of time. At least 2 to 3 hours a day would have been required, which is more than double what I was putting in. So why am I sharing all this? Well, one, to just fill you in, because some of you actually care. But plenty of you don't actually care about my life. You just learn from my teaching, and that's fine. This still applies to you if you've made it this far. Because a lot of us, I think, are trying to find our place in the music industry. Like, who are we as musicians? And that's very much me right now. And that probably is the last thing you're thinking when you're watching my videos, like, oh, you know, he just says, like, do this and makes it look so easy and whatever. And what I've found is the playing part of the piano is, like, kind of the easy part. Like, it's everything else that has made being a musician difficult. You know, making money is one of them. Figuring out how to juggle the practice time with the rest of life, especially as an adult. That's another one. You know, trying to find the right path. Like, do I compete? Do I make a YouTube channel? Do I just play locally? Do I teach most? Do I accompany most? There's so many things you can do as a musician. In fact, I have a list on my computer of like 47 different possible ways I could take my career from this point on. No joke. I wrote out everything I could think of, even to being like a music engineer, because I know enough about, you know, DAWs and that sort of thing to record and all, you know, there's so many things, right? And I think a lot of us that enjoy music, especially the ones between the amateur and the professional way, you're very good, you're very top level amateur, or you're like maybe professional caliber, but not actually a professional in the sense that you're getting paid to do these things often. You're not doing 50 concerts a year, that kind of thing. And that's very much me. I mean, if you've heard even a few of my performances online, you can tell I'm not in an intermediate level. I'm not an amateur player, but I'm also clearly not like a Long Long or a Evgeny Kissin or something like that. That's a household name. That's the kind of gray area I think actually a lot of pianists are in. And even the amateurs that never want to go pro still kind of are in this bracket because they don't really necessarily often know what they want to do with music and with piano playing. They're just like, well, I'm learning these pieces and I have a teacher and I play for some friends every once in a while, but it's kind of like they kind of want to take it further, but they don't know how, because in classical music, it's really hard. You're either like doing it, you're an industry leader, or you're just like an amateur. And there actually are middle grounds, but most people don't know about them, and they're not really traditional paths. So there's this sort of sense of like, what do I actually do with all of this? I've spent 35,000 hours practicing. I've studied with 8 teachers. I've got a university degree. I have a 9-foot concert grand piano, like that some concert pianists don't even instrument this nice. I've got the entire repertoire of sheet music here. If you can't tell, I'm in a garage. I mean, I probably have no less than 1,000 scores over there. The entire standard repertoire I've collected over many, many years. I've got books on composers and music history and theory and orchestration. Most of them I've read. I mean, there's this like entire career of knowledge up here and experience, over 600 performances live, and all of these things. And yet on the outside, there's really not a lot to show for it. I have maybe 35 performances online. I've got my bio and my credentials, but everyone has a bio and credentials. That's really just to be like, hey, I'm real. I'm not a hack, right? But you kind of look back at it and you're like, well, now what? All of this time, almost an entire lifetime, so to speak. It's more than half my life I've put into the piano, even though I was a late start. And yet I'm still sitting here like, I don't know what the next step is. So I'm saying this not to show you how to find it, but just to know if you're in a similar situation, you're not alone in this. You're not alone at all. In fact, I would say for every competition winner you see, like Daniel Trifonov or Bruce Liu or all these people out there, there's thousands more that didn't make it, that still don't know what to do, and still are like, I'll just learn the next piece, I guess, and like, where do I go from here? So if you're 20, you have 10 years. This isn't even in your thinking yet, because you think, oh, I could just win the next competition, right? And then be a famed star overnight. But the older you get, the more you realize that's not really possible anymore. So in any case, I hope that some of this has given you a sense of not purpose, but just knowing that we're in this together. Here's one thing I know I'm in music for: to share love with others. If you've followed me for a while, you know I'm a Christian, a man of faith. I really believe that music for me was a gift that God gave me to get me through my early years. My teenage years and childhood probably would have been a lot less sparkly, let's put it that way, if I didn't have the piano. And through most of my teens, I was practicing 6 to 8 hours a day. It was literally a lifeline for me. And if that's all it ever is, and I quit and I change jobs today even, I'm not going to, but if that were the situation, it'd be like, well, it was still worth something, because it gave me that love and that satisfaction in the time I needed it most. And it kept me sane, actually, as it probably has for many of you. But on top of that, it's something that I can enjoy even if I never give another performance. It's something I can sit down. I'm learning the Beethoven Appassionata right now. And there's just something kind of fun about being like, I have the skill set to just look at it, make a plan, and get that thing knocked off in 6 weeks by memory from the ground up. If I would have told myself that at 14, I would have been like, yeah, right, I'll never learn that piece. So it's not for nothing. There's something really valuable about being like, I have enough skill to just basically learn whatever I want in a relatively short amount of time and feel good about it. And maybe it's not the level of Barenboim or Martha Argerich, or these aren't necessarily my favorite pianists. These are just, of course, names almost everyone would recognize. But with those names comes a level of polish. Comes an expectation that these people know what they're doing. They get all the right notes. They've thought about their tempos. Everything's in place. And maybe I'm 90% of that instead of 100, and that's why I haven't prevailed farther. But even if I'm 60% of that, there's just a personal satisfaction that comes with this whole thing. And I think a lot of people forget that. They want the star, spot in the industry, which I wanted for many years. But what does that really serve you at the end of the day? If a lot of people think you're good, honestly, who really cares? Because a lot of people think a lot of people are good. I think we all need to do this because we love our art. We love our instrument. And we want to make an impact, first to ourselves, then to the others that want to hear us. And maybe that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be who can play fastest and who has the best octaves and who has the best repeated notes. I will often teach videos like that, like how to get incredibly fast or clear repeated notes, but it's not so that you can be the best one or win the next Tchaikovsky competition. It's so that you can unlock the thing that you've had trouble with, right? So that you don't have to sit there going, why can't I play this? But there's an obsession with technique and skill, and I think that's only a means to a certain end. We have to remember that we're in this art to enjoy it. So, all that said, I one thing I've also not really shared with anyone is my frequent discouragement regarding all of these issues, sometimes to the level of depression. And I, in fact, only practice about 3 days a week on average. So the last little part of this video is that I recently read the book. Actually, I've got the audiobook right here. Atomic Habits by James Clear. Has nothing to do with music whatsoever. And yet it has everything to do with music because it's all about habits and how we create them. It says, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Everyone on the planet should read that book. It's that good. It's that applicable to pretty much every skill, discipline, career, person, religion or non-religion. I mean, it's such a good, solid book. I really don't think anyone would read it and not benefit from it. That said, what I got from it most recently was just the need to start a habit and be consistent with it by just doing 2-minute timers and doing it every day. And allowing yourself to do it for that short of time and just be done. Because a lot of us just struggle to start. And I've actually kind of said this in the past, and yet when he broke it down, he provided a few more reasons why it's so helpful and a few more things to do it. Like you sandwich that 2 minutes into another thing you already do so it feels instinctive instead of just some random part of the day. And I've been doing that for the last 5 days and been very consistent with it. So I'm now going to start practicing for 2 minutes a day. And that sounds ridiculous for a pianist. You know, like I said, I used to do hours. But I'd rather get 2 minutes and get one little goal done than not practice at all. And it doesn't mean I can't do more that day. But there are some days where I won't because I'm just too busy. And that's how it goes. So the plan is to actually live stream this practice. I can't guarantee I'll live stream it every day because sometimes I'll have to change the time. Like, for example, I went to the Oregon Symphony last night. And because of that, I had to not do my practice at 9 p.m. and, you know, shift it to a different time. But that said, I'm going to try and live stream a lot of them. As ridiculous as a 2-minute live stream is, it's like, hey guys, okay, bye. I just played a few notes for you. I want to do it because I want to show everyone else an example of what this actually can look like. And if you're struggling, and I know a lot of my adult students will often say, I just forget to practice, or I'm not motivated to even start. And so I'm feeling that right now. So I want to just get back into the habit. For 100 days, I want to practice every day for 2 minutes. And that's 200 minutes of practice. That's a couple hours, almost 3. Actually, no, almost 4. I'm tired. Which means, no, I'm not going to get a ton done with just that, but I'll get something done, and that's better than getting nothing done. And it's really easy to fit in 2 minutes. So, given all that, if you've made it through this marathon of a video, I appreciate your support. You're watching this. If this is your first video you've seen of me, I'm really shocked you made it this far. And if it is not, then you know something about me from the past. So thank you for following along this journey. It will continue to unfold. In many ways, I'm still young. I mean, it's not like I can't do things in music for the next 20, 30, 50 years, 100 years maybe, if I make it that long. But it does mean that the traditional path is kind of over for now. So there's something beautiful in that, actually, that there's a fresh beginning. And that means that there's a lot of surprises coming your way. So one of them I already know for sure I'm doing, and I'm just not going to tell anyone. But it's a ways down the road anyway. So, all right, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.